What's going on, Shane?
Not much, man. Good to be back for another episode. I'm a little under the influence right now, celebrating a bunch of stuff today. So
Little April
perfect
Fool's
time for a hockey show.
Little April Fool's Day.
Little April Fool's Day, yeah. Did you guys hear that the NHL is being canceled for the rest of the year?
Oh, really? Wow, I'm watching the game right.
Yeah, April Fools. Probably caught on to that. Sorry, I'm kind of weird when I'm drunk, but anyways, Tim, we got a lot to talk about. George Peros, head of Department of Player Safety, was a busy man this past week.
Yeah, he is. Especially, and it's with superstars too. It's not with enforcers or physical players.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of fines, suspensions given out since the last time we did a show. First of all, I want to talk about one that's been very controversial, especially up here. Connor McDavid's $5,000 fine for the elbow to the head of Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Now, as an Oilers fan, a completely non-biased Oilers fan, I'm not just gonna say like stick up for Connor. The fact that I'm an Oilers fan, but I do think that was probably a suspension-worthy play. It was definitely a dirty play. There was no need. I mean, if you watch the replay, you can see it started with the shoulder. He got his elbow up there. Probably didn't need to put his elbow up. Quite honestly, I think he's just frustrated. Like, I know Connor McDavid is one of those players where he's the fastest on the ice every night he plays. He takes a whole bunch of crap between all the hacking and the grabbing and the all that kind of stuff that goes on. Like, he's always keyed on and hacked and everything. And I think he just gets so fed up with always being, the center of shit going on where no penalties are drawn, right? So I think that was just more of a thing where, he was just frustrated that no one ever gets called when they hack him or hold him or hook him or anything like that. And I think $5,000 was a fair disciplinary action.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would have been a expendable hit if the main point of contact was his elbow to the head,
Yeah.
But where he went shoulder to shoulder and then it was the follow through, I think that saved him a bit. It was just
like if it would have been Connor flying out there with an elbow up and just straight to the head, then absolutely.
Yeah.
But
weird.
Yeah,
the puck was nowhere near there. I don't think. Like, it was a pretty late hit too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I mean, quite honestly, if that was like a Brad Marchand or a Tom Wilson, it probably would have been 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, if someone with a history, a repeat offender, it would have been a couple games.
Yeah, for sure. But that being said, like, Connor McDavid is the face of the NHL, one of the golden boys of the league right now. As an Oilers fan, I'm happy he's not suspended. I thought for sure he was going to. But I do think, given the fact that, like, McDavid's not a dirty player, he doesn't have any suspension history in his career. I think $5,000 fine. And I mean, $5,000 fine. McDavid is the highest goddamn player in the league.
Yeah.
That's like, he's like, that probably $5,000 fine just means he can't go out for steak and potatoes after a game.
Yeah. Well, we saw that post last night where it went down, like, how much he makes based on his contract.
Yeah.
He saved like 81. He only had to pay like $81 if that was a 2-minute penalty. Like, he makes $5 grand in 2 minutes of a game. Like,
yeah. There was a post that said for every 2-minute penalty, he needs $5,000 on that hit for Kotkaniemi. So I mean, McDavid's just sitting there like, I'd gladly pay that if I was him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talking about, speaking of golden boys in the NHL, there's another $5,000 fine handed out to Nathan MacKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche. He was fined $5,000 for throwing a helmet at Connor Garland of the Arizona Coyotes. That's kind of a unique one.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me because I don't know why he was so frustrated. The Avalanche destroyed the Coyotes last night.
Yeah, I mean, it was 9-3 for the Avalanche. McKinnon was given a 10-minute misconduct on the play. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't actually watch the play, but I saw that, and it said that he threw a helmet at Connor Garland, and I was like, wow, how pissed off do you got to be to throw a helmet at someone?
I mean, it doesn't really surprise me at this point because of the way this season is. You're playing the same teams eight times, and then in Canada 9 to 10 times. You're gonna have a lot of built-up tension by the end of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, just reading about that McKinnon incident here, it says basically they got into a wrestling match. They were both given 2-minute minors for roughing, and then after the two were separated by the rest, McKinnon picked up Garland's helmet and threw it at him. Mm-hmm. So I mean, take that as with a grain of salt, or take that how you will, but McKinnon and McDavid both fined $5,000 for their respective incidents. And then we've got a suspension that was just announced today. Chandler Stevenson of the Vegas Golden Knights suspended 3 games for elbowing. Did you see this hit, Tim?
I did not see this hit yet. I have not seen it.
Yeah, I've not looked at it either, but Chandler Stevenson was suspended 3 games for elbowing Los Angeles Kings defenseman Tobias Bjornfot. Never heard of that player. I'm going to be honest with you. The incident occurred near the end of the second period of Wednesday's game. Bjornfot went into the corner and to collect the puck when Stevenson laid a massive hit on the defenseman, sending him into the boards. The Kings player was slow to get up and went directly to the locker room. Stevenson received a 5-minute penalty and a game misconduct for elbowing.
Anytime the elbow is involved, that most likely means there was head contact. So, and in this day and age, head contact with anyone that ends up seeming somewhat injured you're gonna get fined or suspended.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So yeah, I mean, lots of suspensions, fines to be given out. McDavid's fine was announced yesterday. McKinnon's was announced this morning, and so was the suspension on Stevenson. Another big headline in the NHL: Buffalo Sabres did not go the entire month of March without winning a game.
Nope, they did on the last day of the month.
March 31st, last night, they absolutely destroyed Philadelphia Flyers 6-1. Snapped their 18-game losing streak, tied for the worst, or it is the worst in the shootout era, but it's the worst, tied for the worst in the salary cap era with Pittsburgh Penguins in 2003, 2004.
I have no idea what is going on with this Philadelphia team, honestly. Like,
yeah, I called it last show. I said if Boston doesn't lose to Buffalo, it'll be Philadelphia. Philadelphia, that first game of the series, they were up. Buffalo was up 3-0 after the second period. Philadelphia obviously fought back, won that game 4-3 in overtime. But this last game last night, I didn't watch the game, but I mean, how bad did Philly have to play to lose to the Sabres 6-1?
Pretty fucking bad. Pretty fucking bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a big monkey taking off Buffalo's shoulders there. Yeah. Seventh win of the season for the Sabres.
And we're just 12 days before the trade deadline. Nice.
12 days before the trade deadline. And in regular season, we'd be a couple days away from the playoffs right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's I mean, that trade deadline is going to be something to watch for sure. Do you think Matthias Ekholm gets moved?
Before I did, but with Nashville now winning 6 games in a row and in a playoff spot as of right now, I don't necessarily know if they want to trade people, because the other name that was up for grabs was Granlund and Forsberg.
Yeah.
To show an interest in them. If they're going to make the playoffs, I have no reason to believe why they would want to trade any of those guys.
Yeah.
So I think as long as they're in the running for a playoff spot, I don't see them making moves. If they were to be like where Dallas or Detroit were right now, then absolutely. But
yeah, for sure. The Predators are playing right now against Dallas. The game just started, but 6-game winning streak. They've shot into a playoff spot. It's going to be interesting to see what Nashville does. I know they were one of the teams that were really, really hyped up for the trade deadline, looking to make a lot of big moves. But right now, they're fourth in the Central Division. They remain 10 points back of Carolina. So, Carolina's also got 3 games in hand. So, I don't think Nashville is really going to take a top 3 spot if they do. But Nashville and Chicago, both 37 games played, both 39 points.
It's going to
So
be tough.
Nashville shot into 4th place.
And you have Columbus right behind them with 36.
Yeah.
That spot is going to be such a race because none of the teams besides the top 3 are going to make a fight for getting into the top 3 of that division. Like
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah, and like I'm just looking at Dallas too. Like Nashville and Chicago are tied for 4th, 39 points, 37 games played each. Columbus is 6th, also 37 games played, and they're 36 points. But then you look at Dallas. Dallas has played 33 games. They have 32 points. So they still have 4 games in hand of Columbus, Chicago, and Nashville. So if Dallas can squeak out wins in their next 4 games, that's 40 points in 37 games. They'd be in 4th place.
The only thing to me with Dallas is I feel like we've been saying this all year. Dallas has been behind in games since the beginning due to COVID postponements.
Yeah.
And they just don't seem to ever, all right, now, yeah, they're 4 games behind, but what are the odds that they're actually going to win these 4 games based on their history? They're 3-3-4 in their last 10 games. They're not necessarily in a hot streak.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
is it possible? Absolutely. This team is definitely a playoff caliber team. I'm shocked that they're in 7th right now, but right now I would not bet my money on Dallas making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be tough for sure, and I mean, like you mentioned, Dallas always or they've been behind on games for the majority of the year, um, based on COVID at the start of the season. But now we got COVID to worry about in the North Division as well. Montreal Canadiens just had about a week of games suspended, so now they're about 5 games behind of every other team. And now they just announced that the Vancouver Canucks games will be postponed for about a week. So now Vancouver or COVID's in the Vancouver organization, and yeah, I mean Vancouver's going to be like they got 37 games played now. They're in a good position, but I mean no Canucks games for the next week. So I'm not sure if this is going to spread to other organizations in the North Division or what's going to happen with that.
Who are Vancouver supposed to play this week? Do you know?
I can check for you. I know they play the Oilers on Saturday. It looks like Vancouver plays. They lost to Winnipeg 5-1 a couple nights ago. On April 4th, they were due to play the Jets, which was April 4th is Sunday, right?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's Easter Sunday. April 4th is Easter Sunday, and they were supposed to play the Oilers on the 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Jets again on the 6th, and then the Flames on the 8th. So the game against the Oilers, 2 games against the Jets for sure are postponed, and then probably the game on the 8th against Calgary, and then they'd have to see about the April 10th game against Calgary.
What are you feeling right now as an Oilers fan in the North Division? What are your thoughts?
Like thoughts on the division or thoughts on the COVID situation?
On the division.
It's tight, man. Like, I mean, we had that 4-0 loss against Montreal 2 nights ago. That one hurt. Um, honestly, with the way the Oilers played, I think Buffalo could have probably beat them. They did not play good. They came out flat right from the start, gave up that goal 8 seconds in, gave up another goal 3 minutes later. It was 2-0 Montreal within the first 4 minutes of the game. And I just don't think they recovered from that. And it was a tough loss to take. It's going to be tough. Montreal, like they're up 2-0 on Ottawa right now in the second period. So Montreal, since coming back from that COVID break, they have yet to give up a goal. So they look to be in good form there. And if Montreal can keep that up, they're going to definitely contend. And it's going to be close to see because Winnipeg and Edmonton both 37 games played. Winnipeg a point ahead, and Winnipeg's only 3 points back of Toronto for first place. So that North Division's tight. I do think at this point, with Calgary and Vancouver both playing 37 games, both have 35 points. They're both at least 10 points back of the third place team, which is
Yeah.
Edmonton. So I do think that, I think the top four teams right now are solidified in the North Division: Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Montreal. Just where they place, I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure on placement, because placement could literally either of those teams could get first, second, third, or fourth. So I'm not sure about placement, but I do think that Calgary, Vancouver, Ottawa, I think it's going to be a little bit too late for them to claw back into a playoff spot.
Well, what is interesting to me right now is Montreal's only played 32 games, so they
Yeah,
still have 5 games in hand to Edmonton and Winnipeg, 4 to Toronto.
yeah.
If they continue to play like they are right now, I wouldn't be surprised if they get into that third, maybe even second spot.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at it this way, like you said, Montreal is 4 points back at Toronto, or sorry, 4 games back at Toronto. They're 10 points back. So Toronto's played 36 games and have 49 points. Montreal's played 32 and has 39 points. If Montreal can win their next 4 games in 36 games played, they'd be only 2 points back of Toronto. So it literally could go either way. Like Montreal could get first, Toronto could get first, Winnipeg, Edmonton could both get first. It's a tight division right now in those top four teams. But I think for those top four teams, if you're Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Montreal, every single game is important. Every single game you're going to want to go out there and get a win. Games are going to get more intense. Everyone's going to want that top seed in the North Division for sure.
Absolutely. So, what division do you want to move to next?
We can talk about the East Division. Washington, after the Islanders spent so much time at the top of the East Division, Washington takes over. They're 2 points ahead of the Islanders. 23-8-4 for the Capitals. They're looking really good.
Yeah, they are. But last time I checked, the Islanders are beating the Caps right now, 4-2.
Four to
That was
two.
the last I checked. I don't know if it's changed. The
It's
Islanders,
5-3 now for the Islanders. 13 minutes into the second period.
the Islanders are a tough team. I don't know. They just seem to never go away. But Capitals are absolutely playing hot right now. Pittsburgh has gained my interest over the last month and a half. Ever since Hextall and Burke took over, the Pittsburgh Penguins are 18-6-1.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's a great record.
different team right now. They're actually up 1-0 over Boston halfway through the game.
Yeah. Boston with no goals? Are you can't be serious.
1-0.
Boston hasn't scored. Wow, that surprises me. Boston's like one of the most offensive teams in the league.
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially this year.
Boston's actually got 88 goals for, fourth last place in the league for goals for right now. The only teams, I believe they're fifth last. The only teams that have less goals for than them are the New Jersey Devils, Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings, and Anaheim Ducks. Only teams that have less goals for than the Boston Bruins right now.
That's absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And another team in the East that we mentioned them earlier, but Philadelphia, they are completely shit in the bed. And I see them making the playoffs right now. Right now, I see the Rangers making the playoffs over them if they continue this streak.
I mean, do you think the Rangers, like Philadelphia, the way they're playing now, I'm not going to hold out hope for them to make the playoffs. They've not been good enough. I think you said something about them being like 3-5-3 over their last 10.
It's the last 10 games. They are 4-5-1, and they've been
4-5-1.
45-25.
Yeah. So,
and they've seen a 9-0 loss, a 6-1 loss, a 8-3 loss, and a 6-1 loss last night to Buffalo.
Yeah, and Philadelphia actually right now, they are contending. I do believe they have, the second most goals against in the league. The only team in the league with more goals against than the Philadelphia Flyers are the Ottawa Senators, who have 135. Philadelphia has 129.
Well, heading into the season, they were one of the 4 teams that I would have expected to be in a playoff spot.
Yeah,
Their goal differential is -2 on the season.
yeah,
Like that is horrible. So
yeah.
if I'm not saying either Philly or the Rangers are going to make the playoffs, but if one of those 2 teams are going, it's going to be the Rangers over them. Because right now, Boston's lack of offense is fucking making me nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't score more than 2 goals a game at max.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing for Boston is you have at least 3 games on hand and everyone in the division.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the
we
good thing. But you have to, like, when you're the team like the Boston Bruins and you have at least 3 games in hand, you have to make those games count.
yeah, you have to win those games.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Those are must-win games.
Yeah, for sure. And especially now, like, Boston is 7 points back of Pittsburgh for third place. With the way Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and the Capitals are playing right now, I don't see Boston, contending with either one of those teams for the top 3 spot in the division.
No.
Unless
No.
Boston can pick it up. But I do think if Boston's going to make the playoffs, it's going to be as a 4th seed. But then you've got Philly and New York Rangers to worry about. The Rangers are kind of on a little bit of a roll right now. They got
Yeah.
36 points in 35 games. But they're also 5 points back of the Bruins.
Mm-hmm. And the Bruins are lucky that they have games in hand. Like
Yeah.
that is the main thing is you can always say, all right, we still have games, but at the end of the day, we have to win those games. Right now, I see us making that 4th seed. I don't see us beating any of those top 3 teams in a 7-game series. Unless we get goaltending that allows that gets 2 shutouts and then allows 1 or 2 goals each game max. There's no way we can make it past any of the top 3 teams in the division.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Like, I mean, Boston, they have had those offensive lapses in recent games, but you need so much more than just your first line if you're the Boston Bruins. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I've saw games where they got a lot of, like, recently there's been some scoring from like David Krejci, Craig Smith. Um, I mean, that game that they won 5-4 in a shootout, Charlie McAvoy and Matt Grzelcyk had 2 third-period goals. They
Yeah.
were against New Jersey. They were down 4-2, and then McAvoy and Grzelcyk scored. So those are the kind of games that you have to win, especially since that was your first win of the season against New Jersey.
That's just so pathetic that a team like New Jersey can have those games over us. Imagine if we could have just beaten the previous games against New Jersey. We'd have more points. We'd be in a better position right now, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, heading into that game, you guys were 0-4-1 against the Devils. If those could have been 5 wins, you'd have 23. You'd be 23, 4-5 right now, which would be probably one of the best records in the league.
Fuck the Devils. They just had to ruin everything.
Yeah.
At least we're not Buffalo. It could be worse. At least we're not Buffalo.
True. Yeah, you could be Buffalo. Buffalo is 7-23-5. A whopping 19 points in 35 games.
Minus 46 goal differential. Yep, not too shabby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They got a 3-11-3 home record, a 4-12-2 road record. That's brutal. And Philadelphia, of all teams, was a team to break the losing streak.
I mean, it's pretty fitting. A team like we said, a team like Philly or a team like Boston was going to end up in the streak.
Yeah, and I mean, with the way Philly was playing now, I'm not surprised that they were the ones to give up that losing streak. But also, speaking of Philadelphia Flyers, they put one of their top defensemen, Shane Gostisbehere, on waivers.
I think that's a cap clearing move, and they're trying
Yeah.
to make a lot of moves at the trade deadline.
Do you think Gostisbehere gets picked up?
How,
Yeah,
how,
because he hasn't been picked up yet. He's still on waivers.
how does it actually work? Can they just claim him and they claim the salary?
I think so. I believe so.
I don't see why a team wouldn't just pick him up that needs a defenseman. There are so many teams in the league that could use that 1D that will just bring their game to the next level. I don't see how he doesn't get.
But now the question becomes, if he clears waivers and does not get picked up by a team, he ends up going back to Philadelphia. So the question is, if putting Gossespierre on waivers was in fact a cap clearing move, and no one picks him up when he goes back to Philadelphia, if Philadelphia is going to want to make moves at the trade deadline, do you think then this puts Gossespierre on the trade block?
Absolutely.
Do you think
I
maybe there's a
think
possibility
that.
he gets moved to the deadline?
I'm sorry. What was that?
Do you think maybe there's a possibility that he gets moved to the deadline?
I could see that, and I also could see if he doesn't get moved and he doesn't get picked up, and Philly still has him. I feel like that also means that they're not going to protect him in the Seattle expansion draft.
Yeah. I mean, that expansion draft is going to throw a wrench in a whole bunch of teams' plans because, especially teams that are going to be trading for to get whether it's experience or some scoring help to try to push themselves into the playoffs. Um, and then you got to go through this whole expansion draft where you got to protect players. The salary cap's not going to go up because of the financial difficulties that the league is having right now. So it's gonna be interesting on who teams choose to protect for the expansion draft, for sure.
And I didn't really think of this until like just now. I don't know why this just pops in my head right now, but teams are going to be taking into account this expansion draft, and I feel like they already have in the past couple years, ever since the Seattle expansion has been announced. Like, we need to keep in mind that in the next year or two, we are going to lose one of our players that is probably going to be a key piece to our lineup.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, for sure. And that trade deadline is going to be interesting too because we're starting to hear a lot of rumors. The Pittsburgh Penguins are looking for help at center. Um, Team's president Brian Burke and general manager Ron Hextall um, do not want to trade the team's second round pick. They don't have a 2021 first round selection because it was used to acquire Jason Zucker. And the Penguins don't have any picks in the third or fourth rounds. So the Penguins have no first round selection. They have no third or fourth round. And so for that reason, I can see why Burke and Hextall do not want to trade that second round pick. That's the only pick they have in the first four rounds of this year's draft. So they are going to be looking for some centers. And it looks like right now their sights are set on Mikhail Granlund, Luke Glendening, and Scott Lawton. So there's some rumors from the Pittsburgh Penguins. One more rumor before we cut for a little bit of an advertisement here. The Winnipeg Jets, a team that I thought was going to be aggressive at the trade deadline, turns out they're not going to be. The Jets are in a good position right now, second in the North Division, and they want to keep things the same. So it does not sound like the Jets will be pursuing anyone on the deadline, although they did have their sights set on Matthias Ekholm.
That'd be
But
a
it
big
seems like, it
pickup.
seems like their asking price for Ekholm is a little bit too high.
Yeah,
And
the price at home is going to be high. It's going to be high.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. We are going to cut for a little bit of a 2-minute advertisement here at the halfway mark. So stay tuned for this advertisement, guys. We'll be right back after it.
Hello, everyone. This Easter, P2C brings you No Gamer Left Behind. Over at Player 2 Connected, or P2C, we are just a bunch of streamers and gamers that want to show the world that there's still amazing, kind-hearted people around. This Easter, we've teamed up with the Noodle Clan, an online community who share the same views and values as us, as well as GCSN, the Game Changer Sports Network. With the help of these two communities, we will be hosting a 24-hour live stream charity event. All proceeds we receive, whether it be direct donations, gifted subs, bits, all of our donations will be going to the Northampton County School District's Kids Closet program. This program was created to assist the children in the district that are living below the poverty line. It helps provide them with basic necessities, toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, underwear, even winter jackets. With the help of you, Player 2, we will be able to give these families and provide them what they need. And not only that, but provide them with the knowledge that there are still kind-hearted folks out there that care about their health and well-being. We hope to see you this Easter. Thank you.
That was nice. Yeah, definitely. Thanks. Good job to Jay for that advertisement. That sounds like a good cause for sure.
Absolutely. Anytime you can one need, it's always a great cause.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So, guys, definitely, if you're listening to that, definitely check that out. Again, thank you to Jay for coming on and advertising about that for sure. Definitely a great cause. Anyways, another thing that I want to talk about, I'm sure you're very familiar with this. Bruins are looking for offensive help,
Yeah.
as you could probably already guess. It looks like they're looking for a boost up front on the right side with Andre Kasha. Kasha is still out of commission with a concussion, but they are looking for a boost up front to fill that void. One name that has been attached to the Bruins, that general manager Don Sweeney said he will actively pursue at the trade deadline, is the New Jersey Devils winger Kyle Palmieri.
His name has been swirling around the Bruins at the trade deadline for the past couple years. Last year, he was the big name that the Bruins were looking into, and it never happened. I hope we can pick a guy up like him just to throw onto the second line. If we can solidify that second line just one more level, that'll help our third line, and then that'll help our fourth line. We just need one more forward, and then if somehow we can do it, get one more solid defenseman, I feel a lot better about this Bruins team.
Yeah, Palmieri would be definitely a great pickup. It would be weird seeing him in a Bruins uniform because he's been with the Devils for quite some time. But Kyle Palmieri currently in 6 games against Boston this season has 5 goals and 1 assist against the Bruins. So he has a 1 point per game average when playing against Boston this season. Now, the question is if the New Jersey Devils would be willing to trade Kyle Palmieri to a division rival in the Boston Bruins. Just for this year. I guess it would be just for this year. And the Devils probably aren't going to make playoffs anyway. So I guess it would kind of make sense because if the divisions go back to normal next season, then the Devils are in the Metro Division, Bruins in the Atlantic. It would kind of make sense.
Yeah, it would. Even in last year, gave the Bruins a run for their money. There's always certain teams that for some reason the Bruins just can't do well against.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see if Kyle Palmieri does get dealt and to the Bruins. But another team that is looking for help, they're looking for goalie help. This is surprising to me, the Philadelphia Flyers.
They've been looking for goalie help my entire life.
Yeah, but I mean, like Carter Hart was supposed to be the next second coming of Jesus.
I really expected more from Carter Hart, but he's just so young. It's how often do you have a young goalie step in after one solid season and like a short playoff appearance and like actually have a long lengthwise? That doesn't happen often. That's not like, to me, he really reminds me of Matt Murray and like Bennington, who is obviously having problems in St. Louis right now. Like they got off to a really hot start when they were young. They led their team to a solid playoff run, and now they're just an average goaltender that got exposed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Carter Hart he had a great season last season when the Flyers made it all the way to the second round of playoffs, I believe. But yeah, I mean, Philly was a great team last season. They were really good. They were, before the season shut down with COVID, they were one of the top teams in the Metropolitan Division.
They were the hottest team in the NHL when the NHL shut down for COVID.
Yeah, and like Carter Hart was having a great season last season. But like this year, he just has not been on his game. He was publicly called out by his coach. They've allowed more goals, like I said, than any other team in the NHL besides the Senators. And it looks like the 2 goalies that the Flyers are looking at pursuing are Jonathan Bernier from the Red Wings and Devin Dubnyk from the Sharks.
Dubnyk would be a good pickup.
Dubnyk would be 6'6", great goaltender there for the Sharks. Dubnyk's played with the Oilers, Wild, and the Sharks throughout his career, and that would be a good pickup for the Flyers for sure.
Here's a question though: do you think they send Elliott in the trade to?
That's what I'm thinking. If they do trade for a goalie, do they send Elliott or Hart? Because Detroit and San Jose aren't going to trade their goalie if they don't get a goalie in return.
No, absolutely not. But I feel like I would take more of a gamble on trading Elliott because he's significantly older than Hart is. You don't necessarily know what's going on. Hart might bounce back and turn into a stud goalie. He's got so many years left in his career. Do you just want to trade him away?
Yeah, and the only way I can really see, because Brian Elliott is older, definitely I would agree with keeping Hart, but with Elliott being older, significantly older than Bernier and Dubnyk, the only way I can see Elliott really going in a trade is if there's something else attached to that trade. So Philly would have to give up Elliott and maybe a pick or a prospect or a fourth line player for one of those goalies. I don't think Yzerman or Murray, for the general manager for the Sharks, would let Dubnyk or Bernier go for just Brian Elliott.
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That'd have to be a draft pick, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. That's just my thoughts. And then another team, believe it or not, looking for goalie depth, Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto's looking for everything at this point. I don't understand. I swear to God, they get double the amount of cap space that any other team in the NHL gets. Going into every season, they're right up to the cap floor, and they sign 8,000 players.
Yeah, and they're always complaining about something. Oh, we have no depth. We have no defense. We have no goalie. I'm sorry. Freddie Anderson is not a bad goalie for the team that you have. You now have Joe Thornton. You now have Wayne Simmons. The Toronto Maple Leafs are as good as they can be in order to win a cup. I don't see how you can make that team any better to win a cup from maybe pick up one or two more defensemen.
I mean, that's the thing. And the Leafs needed help on defense. So they went out and they got guys like Zach Bogosian, TJ Brody. They got all those guys in the offseason, and they significantly solidified their blue line. But they're still having questions on D. They're still having questions in net, even with Anderson and Jack Campbell playing really well. They're still having those questions. So this kind of raises the question to me, where if Toronto's looking for goalie depth, I don't think they're going to trade Jack Campbell, because Campbell's 7-0 with a 1.8 goals against average so far. He's been their best goalie by far. Is this where the Leafs kind of move on from Frederick Anderson?
I feel like you got to put him on the bench right now and just keep Campbell on that. Ride the hot goalie. You have no, what else can you do besides ride the hot goalie? He's played 7 games. He's won all 7 of them and gotten a shutout in 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's averaging a 1.7 something goal against average. How can you?
Yeah, and not only that, but go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. At this point, you just have to ride the hot goalie. That's my opinion.
Yeah, ride the hot goalie for sure. And I mean, how long until the Leafs, Anderson's not a bad goalie, but how long until they move on from him? Because Anderson, to me, is a regular season goalie. He does not show up in playoffs. He has in his career, he has a .887 save percentage in the playoffs, which is not good enough. If you're in the Stanley Cup playoffs, that's where you got to play your best. You can't be pulling .887 save percentage out of your ass in the playoffs.
No. Campbell right now, he's played 7 games. He's got 2 shutouts, 7 wins, 1.41 goals against average, and a .948 save percentage.
See, that's crazy. That's crazy. How do you not ride him?
And he's faced 191 shots and has given up 10 goals.
Yeah, he's feeling it, man. Jack Campbell's feeling it. And I mean, Freddie Anderson's out with, I don't know if it's an injury or if it's I think he has depression. He's battling depression or something like that. He's something with mental health issues. He's out with some kind of mental health issue. But I mean, right now it looks like Jack Campbell, how far the Leafs go in the regular season and the playoffs depends on how far Jack Campbell is willing to take them.
Yeah. And the Leafs have a very important decision to make right now, because Anderson was the face of that franchise in net for years. Yeah. And they were not able to get even past the first round. So if you're gonna get rid of him and move him, you better move him before he loses all of his value.
And not only that, but that decision comes even bigger if Toronto, finishes first in the division, and then by some absolute miracle make it past the first round, make it past the second round, and actually make it to the conference finals or make it to even the Stanley Cup finals. If they go into like a deep, deep playoff run and they ride Jack Campbell the entire time, that's where you got to make the decision. Like, okay, we have one goalie who's been with us for 8 years who hasn't gotten us past the first round. One goalie who's actually, had one really good year and we made it to the conference finals. What do we do?
And the thing is, too, is Campbell is 29 years old. He has years left in him.
Yeah.
If like that, this is when a goalie loses its job. Is when a hot goaltender comes in and just lights it up, and the team actually starts winning.
I do think if something happened where Toronto would say to Jack Campbell, "Look, you're our franchise starter now," and Frederik Andersen does sign somewhere else or they trade him away, I do think Freddie Andersen will help one team in the NHL immensely.
Yeah,
Hell,
absolutely.
I take Freddie Andersen on the Oilers over Mikko Koskinen right now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I would not let Anderson walk in the expansion draft.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one way that I would not lose Freddie Anderson.
I mean, if you don't protect Freddie Andersen, you already know he's going to Seattle.
Yeah. Which is honestly, that would be the best fit because look who the goaltender was when Vegas did their expansion draft. Fleury, who was getting pushed out of Pittsburgh by a young goalie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would be the same situation, a brand new start in a brand new city. He might have success.
But now that situation in Pittsburgh, yeah, Fleury was ran out of the city by a young goaltender. But Matt Murray, that same goaltender that ran Fleury out of town, he's no longer with the Penguins anymore either. And now he's up in Ottawa having one of the worst careers or worst seasons of his career.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean that could happen too, where like the Penguins right now, they're doing just fine with Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith. They're 23-11-2. But what happens if after this season, the Leafs don't protect Anderson and he goes to Seattle, and then Jack Campbell has a miserable year, and then they're stuck looking for a goaltender again, and they don't have Freddie Anderson to come back to. That's the one thing you have to look at because we know how much the Leafs have struggled in net these last few years and how much they struggled on defense. If they don't protect Anderson, he's picked up by Seattle. Campbell has a shit year next season. They're right back to the drawing board in Toronto.
Absolutely. And
so
like you said, Anderson's a solid regular season goalie, but he shits the bed in playoffs.
Yeah.
If Campbell just comes in after losing Anderson to the expansion draft or however, and you have a terrible season, well, you're not even making the playoffs, I bet. Because I don't think Toronto has what it takes to be able to put up 4 goals a night. Like if you're consistently allowing over 3 goals a game, I don't see Toronto being a successful team.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I don't see that either. It's definitely something that has to be considered for the Maple Leafs on what they do with their goaltending situation for sure. We're gonna jump to the Central Division. We've got about 15 minutes left in the show. We got 2 divisions yet to cover. Tampa Bay continues to be in first place. We talked about this division a little bit with Nashville riding that 6-game winning streak. They're 10-7 at home, 9-10-1 on the road, but they also are 19-17-1 and in 4th place in the Central Division. Now the Central Division is a little bit weaker than every other division. You look at teams like the North Division, who 4th place is 7 games ahead of 500. East Division, 4th place is 9 games ahead of 500. West Division, 4th place is 3 games ahead of 500. But Central Division, Nashville's in 4th place and they're 2 games ahead of 500.
Yeah, and it's just tough though because I don't know how you really compare division to division when all you're playing are those teams within your division is going to be like each division is so different in its own, in my opinion, this year because you are not any team from one division play a team from another division until the conference finals.
Yeah, and honestly, like in a regular 82 game season, teams that have like 95 points just squeak into the playoffs. Like you're looking at an era right now in the NHL where like 97, 98 points will just get you into the
Yeah.
playoffs. In this division, I can see the fourth place of the Central Division squeaking in and with like 58, 60 points.
Yeah, because you're looking at just over a point per game. So
yeah. And you have teams like Tampa Bay, Florida, and Carolina that are just miles ahead of every other team in their division.
It's I have no clue how the top three are gonna rank when it comes to the end of the season, but those are gonna be the top 3 seeds, and then it's going to be one of Nashville, Chicago, or Columbus, in my opinion.
Don't count. I'm not going to count Dallas out yet, just because they're 4 games back. It's kind of hard to judge, but yeah, I do agree. Tampa, Florida, Carolina in any order for the top 3, and then right now, my money is on Nashville.
Yeah,
with how they're playing, they're feeling it right now.
they've
Especially if
they've just found a way to win the last 6 games. Like they beat Dallas 4-3 in a shootout. They beat Detroit 2-0 and 7-1, and then they beat Chicago 3-1 and 3-2, and then they beat Dallas again in an overtime and win 3-2.
Yeah, and like those are big games. Chicago's a team that's chasing them for that spot. Dallas is a team that is 4 games back of everyone. That could be chasing them for a playoff spot in the future. So those games for the Predators against Chicago, Dallas, Columbus, those are big games for them right now.
It's just insane to me. I would never expect a team that made the playoff negative goal differential.
Yeah, like Nashville's minus 14 goal differential right now. And that's the thing. Like you look at that's why I said don't count out Dallas, because obviously you have Tampa, Florida, Carolina. They're all like plus 20 or higher in goal differential. But then you look at like Nashville minus 14, Chicago minus 9, Columbus minus 14. Columbus is minus 24. And then you look at Dallas, they're at a 0 goal differential. They got 91 goals for, 91 against. And then you got Detroit, who's minus 39. So that's why if Dallas can, kind of ride that a bit, they could have that positive goal differential, and that could be the difference. They could maybe sneak up and get that 4th seed.
I completely agree with you. The only thing is I feel like we've been saying all season they have games in hand and they just haven't shown up. I really expected Dallas to be in that 2nd seed at the 3rd spot in the division, and they just cannot string together a group of wins. Like I have 3 games in a row this season. I don't know. Like I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and you look at Dallas, like I think one thing with Dallas where they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot is that they can't seem to win in extra frames. They have their record right now is 11, 12, and 10. They have 10 losses either in overtime or a shootout. If they can win at least half of those games, then you're looking at a 16, 12, and 5 team, and you're looking in a way better position, right? So, I think Dallas is shooting themselves in the foot a lot when the games go into overtime and shootouts by losing those games. Because, like I said, all it would take is for tables to turn for them to win 4 or 5 of those games. Looking at a completely different team.
Like you said, 10 losses in overtime or a shootout. They've lost 5 games in a shootout. That just sucks. I hate shootouts.
Yeah.
I don't think a game should end in a shootout. I just think it should be overtime.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure. Shootouts, I don't see the point of them. One thing that really pisses me off is how they still do shootouts to decide like gold medal games in Olympics or World Juniors. When you have a gold medal game like a couple of years back when Canada lost to Sweden in a shootout, yeah, I was going to be bitter because there's no way you should decide a gold medal game based on a shootout.
No.
Like hockey is a team sport. Let the team win it by playing as a team to get that overtime goal. Shootouts are especially I can see them maybe in the NHL regular season. Either way, shootouts are stupid. I can see them, I love how the NHL does them in the season, and then come playoffs, it's all continuous overtime. I love that. And I do think that IIHF needs to implement that because shootouts in World Juniors and Olympics to decide gold medal games are just absolutely stupid.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100.
Um, so that's my little mini rant there. Um, Now we're going to talk about the West Division and the Colorado Avalanche, who have really really shown up this season as we expected them to. They had a bit of a slow start, but 127 goals for. They have the most goals for in the league. They have a plus 47 goal differential,
Yeah,
and they are 15-4-2 at home. 23-8-4 all around, 50 points in 35 games. They're first in the West Division.
they are an absolute whack right now. Their last 10 games, they've outscored their opponents 54-21.
Yeah.
And they're first in goals for per game, first in goals against per game, as the second best penalty kill, first in shots on net per game, and first in fewest amount of shots against per game. This team, if they continue to play this well, it's going to, I've said this all season, it's going to be Colorado, Vegas in the West Division. If they continue to keep this up, I don't see how Vegas can beat them like in a play.
I mean, I feel like has been for the past 2 seasons for sure. This has been kind of an ongoing talk with Colorado. They always show up in the season. They can't seem to find that finish in the playoffs. So to me, this Colorado team's doing good, but this could be all smoke and mirrors because we all know what happens in playoffs, right? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So until Colorado can prove that they can be the same team in the playoffs that they can be in the regular season, I just don't think they're a team to be taken seriously until they can prove that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you also have to think that they're coming off of like what was it, 3 or 4 years where they were the laughing stock of the NHL, and
True,
just a
yeah.
couple years ago they were a wild card, and then last year they became a serious contender, and now this is the second year in a row where people are saying, "All right, this is a top 4 team in the league," and they have a goalie that's in the running for a Vezina right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And who would have
Five,
thought Philip Grubauer at the start of the season would be a Vezina candidate?
5 shutouts, 1.78 goals against average, and a .928 save percentage.
That's crazy. Yeah, he's doing really good. You're talking about teams with negative goal differential sticking into the playoffs. That could also happen in the West Division too, because you've got Colorado and Vegas just blowing everyone out of the water. Minnesota's got a plus 13, but then every other team in the West Division, other than Los Angeles, who's got a 0 goal differential, is negative. St. Louis negative 13, Arizona negative 17, and then San Jose minus 21, and Anaheim minus 40.
And then you look at LA 0. Honestly,
Yeah.
do not count LA out for that 4th spot if St. Louis continues to struggle.
Yeah, LA, I mean, they're 500 right now, 14, 14, and 6. They've got 34 points in 34 games. St. Louis has played 35 games, has 38 points. So, I mean, if LA wins their next game, they're 2 points back of St. Louis for the 4th spot. And San Jose, too. 34 points in 35 games. The West Division, everything other than under Colorado, Vegas, Minnesota is looking pretty weak right now.
Yeah. And honestly, I did not expect St. Louis to struggle this much this year. I knew Pietrangelo going to Vegas was going to hurt, but I thought that they were going to fill that hole with Krug. And honestly, I can't even tell you the last time Krug's name was mentioned.
Yeah, Krug has had that's another thing too. Krug, the signing of Torrey Krug in St. Louis was very, very hyped up. And he just hasn't played like the same defenseman he played in Boston. Which has been really surprising to me. I thought he was going to provide like a huge boost to the Blues.
Like offensive. He's an offensive defenseman. I thought he was going to help offensively. I don't know. Do you see St. Louis not making the playoffs? And if so, what do you think they do?
If St. Louis makes the playoffs, they're going to hang on to the 4th seed. I do think St. Louis can, is as long as they, as long as something happens where they can get their act together and start stringing a few wins together. But in order for that to happen, like your guys, like your key depth guys, like your David Perrons, Ryan O'Reilly, who's been kind of quiet this season, you know, Tyler Bozak, Mike Hoffman is even with the St. Louis Blues. Those are the guys that got to step up. Those are the guys that have to, like, put the game on their back. And then you got guys like, Jaden Schwartz, Tarasenko's back with the team now. And then, like, you got to start playing. Like, they got Justin Falk and Torrey Krug as their top defensive pairing. Those are not two bad defensemen at all.
No. The Blues are not a bad team at all. They just need to start playing like the Blues when they were in the playoffs and just beating everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, if you look at the St. Louis Blues roster, their highest scorer right now is David Perron, 34 points in 35 games. Not bad, but like you said, Torrey Krug has 1 goal in 35 games, 17 assists for 18 points. Not bad for a defenseman. Like 18 points in 35 games, that's not too shabby for a defenseman. But
that's not bad, but that's not the numbers that he was putting up when he was in Boston.
In Boston, yeah. Boston, he was almost like a point per game defensive player. But like your guys like Tyler Bozak has 3 points. Kyle Clifford has 5. Marco Scandella has 5. Vladimir Tarasenko has 7. Ivan Barbashev has 6. These are guys that were key parts of the St. Louis Blues Cup winning team in 2019. And, like even Colton Parayko, 8 points. Oscar Sundqvist, 9. Jaden Schwartz, 11.
Yeah.
These are guys that are in slumps right now and that are having great seasons in 2019 when they won the Cup.
Yeah, and those are the guys that you're going to need to step up if you want to bring another Cup back to St. Louis. It's that core group that won it all that needs to step up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Do you see LA making the playoffs, Tim?
I don't know. What's throwing me off is they just don't seem to be going away. Like, they have 2 games in hand over Arizona, so there's a high chance that they could beat Arizona in the standings at least.
Mm-hmm.
If St. Louis continues to struggle, there's a possibility.
For sure, yeah. It's going to be
Imagine LA sneaks in as like the 8th seed once again and wins the Cup like as a bunch of old guys.
Yeah, that would be unreal. Like your Dustin Brown, Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, all winning a 3rd Cup in LA.
Second time being the 8th seed in the Western Conference.
I mean, if LA goes on a roll, there's no stopping them, right? Anything happens in playoffs. Can you imagine LA sneaking in as the last seed, taking out Colorado 1st round and Vegas 2nd round?
That would be wild.
Can you imagine? Like, that's what playoff hockey's all about.
If LA makes the playoffs, I would be almost tempted to be like, fuck it. I'm going to bet money on LA.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And like people in Vegas would be throwing millions of dollars on the table.
Oh, yeah.
For absolutely. Sure. All right. So to end off the show, we're going to do the scoreboard right now. Start of the 3rd period, Pittsburgh up 2-0 on Boston. Sorry, Tim. Rangers up 2-1 in the 3rd period against the Sabres. High scoring game in New York right now. 6-4 Islanders over Capitals end of the 2nd. We've got a tie game. Columbus and Lightning tied at 1 in the 2nd period. Also tied at 1 are the Red Wings and Panthers. Canadians are up 3-0 in the 3rd period over the Senators. And you've got the Dallas Stars and the Predators tied at 1 after the 1st. And the Hurricanes and Blackhawks. Hurricanes lead 1-0 after the 1st. And later tonight, you've got Minnesota and Vegas. That's a big game.
This Pittsburgh-Boston game is getting chippy. It's getting chippy.
Yeah, I can imagine for sure. There's a lot at stake on that Pittsburgh-Boston game. So,
Marchand and Letang were just going at it.
Man, I'm going to go watch that game. I'm going to hang up and go watch that game right now. All right, so you guys have a great night. Tim, we'll see you probably next Thursday night.
Yeah.
Have fun watching that Bruins game. And for all you guys, take care. Have fun. Lots of great games on tonight. So crack a beer, fry a steak, and let's watch some hockey.
Yeah. And have a good Easter, everybody.
Yeah. Happy Easter.
Hello,